I long, as does every human being, to be at home wherever I find myself. Maya Angelou. Go back to Indiana, or wherever it is you came from, she hissed. I cannot recall what preceded her comment, nor what precipitated her hatred. She didn't like me, and for no apparent reason except one: my skin color. We were on the softball field for recess. In the outfield, well out of the teacher's earshot, no one else could hear our conversation. It was a typically hot, sunny southern day, and I could feel the red clay burning beneath my feet like hot coals. My classmate turned toward me, her eyes seething with hatred and bitterness. Sound travels faster in humid air, stinging the ears more quickly than normal. I said nothing in response, but knew what she meant. Naming a state, Indiana, instead of the country, India, made her meaning undeniably clear. Or was that simply how little third graders in rural Alabama really knew? My family was, as far as we were aware, the only Indian family within a 45-minute radius, and my classmate had never met, or presumably seen, anyone else from the far-off land of Indiana. At that moment, I didn't cry. I didn't tell my parents what my classmate said. In fact, I didn't tell anyone. I felt pushed to the side and felt the loneliness of being different. It wasn't until years later that I began to process and speak of situations like this, times when I felt alone in my experience of being an immigrant or someone who looked different from others. But where was she telling me to return to? I was puzzled. My family had recently moved from South Dakota, so that was the only place that made logical sense in my mind. It did not occur to me to go back anywhere else. I was born in India, so perhaps she thought we had recently clambered off our own canoes from the Gulf Coast and walked north. She didn't know I was 1 year old when my parents immigrated, that this was the only country I had ever known. But in my head, I've been going back ever since, trying to find that place called home. I have never forgotten her words. My experience that day on the playground opened my eyes, as my classmate clearly told me who I was not. Her words reminded me of what she and others saw when they looked at me. I looked at me and saw American. Others looked at me and saw foreigner, Indian, or Asian. At that age, it was not obvious to me that I was different from anyone else, because I thought and spoke like an American. But I didn't look like one to her, which is to say, white. I lived with that tension for years, struggling to figure out where I belonged, seeking to find terms to explain my identity. What did it mean to be Indian? American? Asian? Brown? What was I? Where did I fit in?